I'm really, really excited about the demo from XPOZ. First of all, because I really love using it, and I think it's a bit magical, the experience, as I guess you'll see in a moment. And I think also because, to me, what I see in XPOZ is they're like a few steps ahead, where a lot of products we see still have this um, this SaaS style where there's like some website you go to and you click, there are like buttons with rounded corners and you click them and maybe it fits you and maybe it doesn't exactly fit you. And there's a new way of doing things agentically when by the functionality, for example, in an MCP server, and lets the agent do the work. Like there used to be these yellow pages advertising, let the fingers do the walking. So I think this is really innovative and it's also really exciting to use. So instead of me yapping, over to you, Shai. It would be great to see the demo of XPOZ.
Thanks, Eleanor. And the introduction was actually quite great because it brought me right to the spot where I want to start, which is explaining what XPOZ is. So XPOZ is basically a platform that was built LLM first, right? A few years ago, everyone was talking about mobile first, developing applications first for mobile and then for desktops. And now we were built LLM first, meaning we build a platform that is optimized and built for LLMs. What we do is we expose social media data to LLMs and allow users to gain insights, make decisions using the brain of the LLM and our ability to collect data from social media and to analyze it. And combined together, we can provide value to almost any business that you can think of. And we'll maybe dive a little bit into use cases in a minute. But first, I want to show you a quick demo. I'll start with the UI demo, just to explain a little bit what XPOZ does. So maybe I'll start with, and you'll see yourself for a second, how we work. So XPOZ, when you join XPOZ, you need to define the keywords that you're interested in, right? So it can be the area or the topic that you're interested in. It can be keywords or users you want to track. We support Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and some few more surprises very soon. Few more social networks. And once you define that, XPOZ starts collecting data continuously. So we get a lot of data from social media in our database, and we analyze it and we expose it to LLMs. And we build the optimized solution for LLMs to analyze a big amount of data. We know that LLMs sometimes are failing due to the context window size, and we found ways to overcome that and allow LLMs to process a large amount of data coming from social media and get all the insights that you want. So you can do simple thing like, and let me just copy the prompt I wrote before. It's just because I don't want to start typing in demo, right? So I'm gonna, no, it didn't copy that well. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna ask Claude to tell me what user speaks about the most about ZPL N8N, right? And I'm gonna ask him to get the posts from Twitter and analyze the sentiment, right? And what Claude is going to do is to use XPOZ, which is an MCP server, which is connected at the moment, right? And he's going to go and fetch the data about those topics. He's going to analyze it, and he's going to get us back the results of what people say about ZPL or N8N, right? And we can see the tools that Claude is using. He's going to search for users by keywords, and he's going to get the results. So that's a basic demonstration of what XPOZ does and how you can speak to it in natural language. So far, it's not different than any chat or conversational application that we used. The big boost of productivity and value can be brought by using agents. And this is what I want to show you. So using Claude Code, I built a simple agent. We can call it agent, right? At the moment, it's running manually, but you can automate it using any system, which basically create leads for an industry. For now, I wrote it to get leads for people who are doing agentic work, building agents, doing workflow automation and stuff of that kind. But it can change and it's configurably, so you can choose any industry you want to get the leads that you want. How it's working? We have a workflow instructions file. Wait, the cat here. Sorry. Yeah, social media, it's full with cats, so I had to put a cat in the demo. So workflow instructions file actually tells Claude what he needs to do, and it's split into different steps. So the first step is to go and get the data from XPOZ that is based on a search query that I'm defining in a config file. Right, so as you can see here on the left, I have my solution, my agent. We have this instruction file. It's basically natural language telling Claude what to do. And maybe that's not a secret that I used Claude also to write that agent, right? So it's really easy running it one time after another and optimize it to get the best results. I'm going to do this, so you won't have to see yourself. And then, so the first step is reading the config file. Then it's going to use XPOZ to search for the users that are talking about specific topics. And then what it's going to do is use the power of Claude to write a Python script to get all this data, process it, and score the leads that I'm getting by KPIs that I wrote in another config file. You see it's going for the intent score, whether this user, how much they're talking about the problem, and if it's recent, meaning you wrote in the last few days, and how the posts are being engaged, and so on. So that's the next step. So I'm going to demo you how Claude can get data from XPOZ, from social media, analyze it using his tools, and then it's going to enrich the data with the posts written, the specific posts written by the top leads. And then it's going to analyze the sentiment of those leads, telling me, oh, this is a good lead, this is a bad lead, this is high priority, you should contact him tomorrow, he's really into buying something, or he's really into someone building him an automated workflow or not. And that's what this agent does, right? If you can see here in the search config, you can see the searches that I'm asking him to search for. Right? Need workflow automation, looking for AI agents, need automation solution, automator processes, and so on. This entire solution and repo is going to be available for you. I'll send the link to Eleanor so she can forward it to anyone who's interested. And then all I'm going to do is just, I'm going to ask Claude to execute the workflow. And then step by step, he's going to execute what I asked for, and he's going to give us detailed explanation about what's the phase that he's doing, and he's going to use XPOZ for everything social media. So what we got is a machine that is automatically getting data from social media and getting insights from social media interactively, real time, and then uses that to build a lead generation system. And the output file will be a list of leads ordered by their qualification and validation, whether they're a good lead or bad lead. And that's instant value right here, right? Like it's an agent that instead of sending you to search through Twitter and Instagram and Reddit and other social media, we're doing it automatically. And as you can see, Claude is running the workflow, is starting to write files here in the temp. So we already have the user that have the buyer intent, is going for the other strategies, and he'll write the temp files here in the temp. While that is being executed, I'll go back to my previous browser, and I'm going to share the results of searching what people say about N8N and Zapier, right? So a simple question that I asked was, using XPOZ, what user speaks the most about Zapier or N8N to get the post, go get the post from Twitter and analyze the sentiment. So we can see that Claude wrote a very detailed summary telling us that this user he has 52,000 followers. He wrote 36 posts. He has a lot of engagement, and we can see the themes of what he's talking about. So he's promoting NA10, is totally pro NA10, and so on. So this is just a quick demonstration about how you can use XPOZ also for interactive and chat-like questions about everything in social media. It can be questions about who's talking about Zapier or NA10. It can be finding influencers. It can be what people say about the stock. And actually, in our website, you can see there's a page full with use cases where social media can bring you value and how to get it. Right. Sorry. Right. So you have a list of use cases. You can go here and you can see the recipe and how to do that in XPOZ. Now let's go back to our agent and see what's been done. So we can see that the 3 temp files have been written, and Claude brought the results from XPOZ about the users who are talking about automation workflow, Zapier, NA10, and so on. And now he's going to analyze that. And you can see that he's writing his own scripts. So with using the code execution tools of Claude, he's using his own script to analyze this data. And he's also updating us on the progress, as you know. So the phase 4 is the enrichment. We're getting more posts for the top 10 leads. And the cool thing here is that Claude is going to run 10 requests in parallel to XPOZ and get for each one of the users, get his top 100 posts, and he's going to send it to us. And Claude's going to analyze the sentiment in those tweets, right? So we've got a list of users, like 300 and whatever, we can see soon. And then for the top 10, we asked him, enrich this data with more posts and tell me exactly what they're talking about. And in each step, he's giving us a summary of what he's done. So we can see how many rows of returns for each one of the search strategies we've defined. So Claude continues to run those in parallel. And one of the secret sauces of XPOZ is the ability to process a large amount of data. And this is done using an async tools mechanism that allows the LLM or Claude Code in that demonstration to go and keep on pulling the data. When it's ready, it shouldn't fill his entire context window with results. It just downloads a CSV with the full data. As you can see, the CSVs are being written here. So what we have is that we're overriding the context window with using CSVs. And we've tested it, and we can allow Claude to analyze files with up to hundreds of thousands of results, right? So this allows you to really process social media data ongoing to get the insights that you want. We'll scroll down. We see that it's done with getting the post for the top 10 leads, and now he's analyzing this data. So we've downloaded the data, and now Claude takes this enormous text files and is processing them and analyzing what each of the users is saying about whether he wants or needs an workflow automation developer, or he wants someone to build AI agents for him. And as you can see that we're already getting results. This lead is clearly a content creator, a product marketer, not a buyer, right? And we're going to get, is completing the conversation, we're going to get the entire result soon, and we're going to get a summary. While he's doing that, I'll explain a little bit about the structure of the repo. So we talked about the workflow instruction. This is the basic file that tells Claude what he needs to do. I didn't type all of this. I'm not a fast typer, right? I used Claude Code to help me design that as well. We have the analysis prompt, which tells Claude how to analyze the leads, whether they're good or not. We have the output template, which is the template of the CSV, which tells Claude how I want to get my output. What are the columns that I want to use, right? And then I have the search config, which tells Claude how to search. That is it. That's the entire solution, right? And now we see that Claude continues on analyzing the data. We'll wait 4 more minutes maximum, and we'll get the results. Just to summarize what we've seen so far. So we built a lead generation system that creates a CSV file with leads for specific needs. This is real-time data. And we let the LLM use their brain to help us analyze whether those leads are good or not, whether they're qualified, do they have urgency in the need, and so on. While that is being executed, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Shai? I think it is brilliant. Okay, maybe I have a question. So, I mean, the cool thing here is you programmed the complete system, but you didn't write a line of code. And in fact, you didn't even write a line of prompt, right? Because you interacted with the agent to generate this. What are you learning about this mode of interaction? Because this is completely new. It's really exciting because it means that you don't need a programmer, you don't need like a development team. You can, if you just figure out how to work with this tool, you can build it yourself. But what are you learning about the patterns of interacting with an agent like this and iterating and building a system?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So after 20 years of writing code, I can tell you that it's completely different than what we used to, right? So if we used to write a very large piece of code, then write the testing and run it, now we can iterate talking to a chat, an agent, whatever, and he's writing the code for us and helping us build a better system. But it's not only that he's writing the code, because he has tons of knowledge and let's say experience, like he saw a lot of code line, he's improving our code and the value we provide by suggesting how we should do things, how we can improve things. So that's one thing that is brilliant for me as a developer. But the other thing is that it really helps me in the phase of planning what I want to build and how I want to build it. So Claude Code in specific has a plan mode, which is not implementing anything, but it's just planning. He's writing a list of tasks that he's going to do, a list of items that he's going to build. And that really helps me focus on what's the best architecture or what's the best way to do things. And I think that's brilliant for me to improve my productivity.
Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. And I have the same experience. I've been programming for many, many years. And all of a sudden I stopped programming. And I have to say I don't miss it so much because I'm doing so much more. And it's really transformational. Any other questions for Shai? Anyone?
I don't want to take too much of the time. I'm just going to say that the output file has been written. I have now a CSV file with around 300 lid. I'm going to keep it as like a trailer for the future. So I'll send it in the email. I'll send the entire repo with the results. And then each one of your of the community members can build whatever he wants using that. The bottom line is that agents and the easiness of building applications, of getting value using agent, combining it with social media data can bring so much value that I urge you guys, try it. XPOZ is had a free trial. You can use it and you can build it into your applications of workflow automations and see what you're getting. And you can also ask some questions like everyone, you know that previously everyone used to look up the names in Google, right? So now what you can do is go to Claude, see what people are saying about you on social media and get the results. It's also for those kind of things. Thank you, Eleanor, for the opportunity to speak here.
Thanks, Shai. This was great. Thank you for the demo. And yeah, please share the repo and email, and I'll also send everything to everyone later. I really recommend. I have XPOZ now installed in my Claude, and even without doing any fancy workflows, just kind of searching for stuff or getting up in the morning and saying, hey, what's going on in Twitter? What's the latest AI news? It's just a magical experience. So I really recommend to everyone to have a go. All right. Thanks, Shai. And we want to hold you. Thanks for staying up late for us. All right, so everyone, we have 3 questions on the Slido. I can show you the honor to present them. Well,
Sorry, I have a question for Shai, if that's okay.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you, by the way. I'm just curious. Actually, more than one question. It's okay. One is for XPOZ. It looks fantastic. I'm just wondering what the use cases are. What are all the use cases other than lead generation and monitoring social media? What are some of the like high level use cases that this tool can be used for? And the second part to that is, how do you know that these are like real people and real leads that are reachable? You know, that because that is always a big question.
That's a good question. I'll answer the latest first. So first of all, Twitter provides a lot of information about the users. If we're talking about Twitter, right? I'm gonna leave Instagram and Reddit aside for a second. So and also Instagram and Reddit, they have not similar, but they have a lot of metadata about the users. And with those properties, like where is the user coming from, how many followers, how many posts did he write, and so on. And also Twitter has like this bot indicator as well, which they provide out of the box. We can help Claude or the LLM make a decision whether it's a valid person or not. I can't guarantee that, but that's where the magic of LLMs comes handy, because using those properties of the users, they can make a decision whether it's a valid person or not. So that's one. Regarding the use cases, we see a lot of interests in a lot of our customers building, for example, influencers, like for marketing teams, finding the influencers that they can use to influence their brand, right? It's not always as easy like counting number of followers. It's more like who are the influencers who are getting more traction and creating an engagement, and users have positive sentiment with the posts. So we see a lot of customers building that. A lot of analysis about the conversation around stocks and finance to understand the market before it even being affected, like with the stocks itself and the stock market itself. Another thing we see is around security. People who are threatening online, lawsuits and law firms who are building, who are looking for lawsuits, or looking for evidence for harmful and stuff like that. And then we also see a rise in people asking questions like around HR. What do this employee say about me? What did this candidate is talking about online, whether it's a good candidate or not, and so on. So these are the use cases. I hope I answered your questions. If not, let me know.
Yeah, you definitely did. Thank you for that. I guess one last question here regarding XPOZ. Just curious from a business model standpoint, it seems like users get 100,000 free results per month. How does that, is that like a loss leader? How does that work because I mean, you're probably using tokens from LLM. So I'm just curious how that works.
So as a service, we're not using LLM almost at all. So we're not wasting our own tokens. And we count the results only when users are processing them. So even if you ask the questions and you got a CSV file with, let's say, 200,000 rows, until you click the link to download it, we're not counting it towards your limits, your credits. And the cool thing about the CSV files and the code execution tool is that a lot of the processing is not using LLM tokens. So if you just want to count the amount of rows, process, combine CSV files, see how many followers are similar between two customers and so on, those tools are being done in the code execution sandbox, and they're not costing almost any LLM token. The question, the processes that are the do cost LLM tokens are usually around the sentiment and the text analysis, which then the user uses his tokens, like the subscription with Claude or ChatGPT, to process the data that we are providing.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying. And thank you, Eleanor, for letting me ask this question.
Sure. Then David, I think you are.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I just had a quick question. I guess it's from an engineering perspective. How are you tracking user usage? I saw you were kind of just looked like you went into some sort of online web browser and you just used XPOZ in the prompt. How does it know which user account has permissions and how is that tracked?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a part I skipped because I didn't want to make the demo too long. But before starting to use XPOZ, you need to connect the MCP server to your Claude Code or your Claude. It's an easy step. You can see in our website of installation, like if you're using Claude Code, it's a one line of code. And if you're using Claude Web, you can go to the little plus sign next to the chat and you can do add connectors and you can connect to XPOZ. We support Google authentication. So every person with a Google user can just connect. We create a user for it. If you connect directly to the MCP, you're directly going to the free tier. If you're going through our website, then we also create the user for you, and then you can use it to connect. Some automation, workflow automation tools need an access key. So that's also, we generate it once you log in, and then you can get this access key and use it in NA10 or any other tools that require access key to authenticate with XPOZ.
Did you have to get permission from Claude to become one of these custom connectors, or is it kind of an open system?
So a custom connector is not something you need permissions from Claude. There are certified connectors to Claude, which is a lane that we're walking towards with Anthropic. It's probably going to take some time, and then you'll be able to see it in the list of connectors. But for now, Claude supports custom connectors. You just type in the URL of XPOZ and you put in the access key or the Google authentication, and that's it.
Excellent. Thanks so much for your time.
Sure. Thanks.
And by the way, just a reminder, if you're curious about this flow of MCP with OAuth, we've had a demo a month ago, which you can also find on my YouTube, where we actually built an MCP server and deployed it and authenticated with OAuth from Claude. So it's not certified, it's not blessed, there isn't like the official stuff there, but Claude will allow you to add anything that has the OAuth authentication, and so you can even create your own if you wanted to. Sorry, good night.
Is XPOZ also compatible with Codex and AMP, or it's purely Claude Code?
No, it's totally not purely Claude Code. We support every program that can speak with MCP. You can create your own MCP client. You can wrap it and use it using like an API approach. But as I said at the beginning, we are LLM first, right? So we said we're going to be optimized for LLM. We're going to do first the MCP, and we're going to make it like the best experience you can get with LLM. So that's why it's MCP first. But you can use connect ChatGPT to an A10 base 44 lovable. You can use it everywhere.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right. Let me the link. Ilana is asking for the link. Which link? Is it the slider? It should be. And in that chat, I can send it again. And XPOZ, as well as the repo with the demo from Shai and their email so that you can get in touch. We will also send later in an email. Thank you so much. This was really great. And yeah, I really, as I said, believe in this approach, and I really enjoy using XPOZ. And with that, I'll move to the Slido, but of course, also feel free to just jump in if you have some questions. The first one we have from Roger. Are there any alternatives to Claude Code that can be run on private local infra and offers similar performance? And for example, if you could use GLM 4.7, yeah, it's an open model. So the challenge with running models locally, if you're okay with the models, they're usually not as good as the very latest proprietary models like Claude Opus or GPT 5.2 or Gemini 3, but they're really close. If you look at some of the benchmarks on Marina or these things, or even reports, I've used GLM 4.7 and Minimax 2.1. They're really good. They're kind of like maybe like the previous generation of LLMs, where the previous generation is something from 3 months ago, right? The problem with them is that these are huge models still. You can't run them on your MacBook Air or my MacBook Air and what machine you have. And really, there are large models that to run, especially to run in a reasonable speed, you will need a significant kind of machine, probably with multiple GPUs. That's quite expensive. It's a bit difficult to set up. It's also not clear that it's cost effective from a utilization point of view, right? Because when you're using a cloud service, they have GPUs that run all the time. Sometimes you use them, sometimes someone else uses them. Whereas if you are buying your own rack with GPUs and you're spending a lot of money, then most of the time they will not be working while you sleep, for example. So yes, it's entirely possible. The quality of these models is improving and is really very close, very, very close to what you get from the proprietary models. But it's not really practical to run for individual use, I would say. Maybe if you have like a company where there's a serious concern about using external providers, you could use something like this. Now, there are some smaller models. I think currently very notable is Mistral, the latest model from Mistral, the French AI lab. It's not as good. It's not as good as the latest models, and it's not even as good as the previous generation. So the question is, are you going to be compromising on the quality of the generation? And the other thing is, still you would need pretty powerful hardware. So probably on a high-end laptop or desktop, you could run Mistral. It will be a bit slower, and the performance will not be as good. And so I think the question is always, what are the priorities? Like, what are you solving for? There are some, I've been, for example, advising some companies that are not allowed. They have some compliance requirements that are very, very strict. They're not allowed to send their code or some potentially private information to a cloud provider, even if it's encrypted and even if there are all the guarantees that this information is not being used. And they end up creating their own server racks and running some open model. For individual users, I'd say, I'm not sure it's worth the time. I don't see what's the point. You're definitely not going to save money, and it could be a frustrating experience. I hope this answers the question a little bit. Of course, happy to share any follow-ups. All right, let's continue. So, Kundla is asking, what is my current agentic coding setup? My orchestrating agent and a walkthrough or pointer. So that will send, there are some walkthroughs. Probably a nice one is, if you look on my YouTube, I uploaded the live demo from last week where we had some fun customizing customizing a browser with Agentic coding. My setup specifically, I use Visual Studio Code. I have both GitHub Copilot, which I really like because it's really well integrated into Visual Studio Code, and it gives me access to all the different models, right? So they have Gemini and GPTs from OpenAI and the Anthropic models, and you can also hook it up to any open model you want. So I like that. And I also like my Claude. It is a really nice setup. It's a little bit expensive. I have to pay for the max subscription to get any with a amount of work done. But I appreciate it and I use it quite a lot. And I use it almost always as the extension in Visual Studio Code, kind of like Shai showed us earlier. I sometimes use the CLI, the terminal, but quite rarely because I like working in a normal window where I can open files and see what it does. And so I'll use the terminal if I'm already in the terminal doing something, but otherwise it's usually Visual Studio Code, and I switch between GitHub Copilot and Claude Code. And I experiment with everything, so I really like OpenCode, and I've been playing with it quite a lot recently, and it connects to my projects, which I get as ChatGPT subscription, and with my GitHub Copilot for all the different models, and they have their own Zen subscription where they give some models for free, including, for example, GLM 4.7, which is really good for a free open model. But that's more for like learning, playing around. It's not what I use day in, day out for work. Now, except for this, I also do a lot of my work in synchronous agents. So the kind of stuff that runs on the web, and I write a specification and else. Where I also use interchangeably GitHub Copilot, which then has their coding agent integrated into GitHub. So that's quite convenient because if I have a GitHub issues or something that needs done, I just assign it to Copilot and it goes and does the work and creates a pull request for me. And I'm getting quite good at writing like these really nice issues with specification. That's something that with practice you can get quite good at. Sometimes I also now use Claude Code Web. It's nice. In some ways, the integration is not as smooth as the GitHub Copilot agent, in my opinion, because you can sort of assign an issue to it and then follow directly from GitHub. That's kind of something that GitHub as the platform has an advantage in. So this is basically my setup. I don't use any of these like running many parallel agents or stuff like this. I don't understand really how people use it. I'm a little bit suspect that this is more of the something people do to show off than serious work, because it's very confusing. And I don't use any of the other editors or tools. I tried everything, and a lot of things are really good, but I really believe in having a tool that you know very well and you configure it for yourself, and you become very efficient working with it. So that's what I do. I don't know if there are any follow-ups or questions on that, but yeah, I'm happy maybe next time I can also do like a video walkthrough.
Yeah, that was amazing, Eleanor. Do you already have a walkthrough of this on your YouTube or anywhere? Would love to see that. Otherwise, in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was using, if you look at my YouTube channel, there are a few recent kind of live events where you can see basically me working with this setup. But what I promise is I can do for next time, like more like a tour of my setup, because I can see that's valuable.
Yeah, I would love to see the way you use Copilot from the CLI and, how the pull requests come in and, end to end would be amazing. Thank you again.
Sure, I'll do that. All right, so there is a question here. Can I use my Copilot Pro subscription in VS Code in a way that supports open source AI over Claude Gemini without losing performance? The one thing Copilot Pro offers any of the open models, the Copilot chat in Visual Studio Code, you can use any model really, and that has the connection to Cerebras and to Hugging Face and other providers, or basically anything that has the normal API and the style of OpenAI. And so you can use all of these models, or of course OpenRouter, which is the easiest way to get access to all the different models. But I don't think any of these are included in the subscription. What I remember, they only have the models from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google Gemini, and Google Cloud. I don't think any of the open models are included.
And Eleanor, out of curiosity, what GitHub Copilot tier are you on? Are you on Pro or Pro Plus?
And then Pro Plus.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of probably overkill. I never hit the limits. As to full disclosure, I'm being sponsored by GitHub because I'm a contributor to open source projects. So I'm paying for it, which is really nice of them. And I would pay for it if they didn't, because I think it's a great product. But yeah, I have the Pro Plus. I don't remember any months where I got anywhere close to the limits. I think it's a very generous subscription.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right, moving on. What is the benefit of OpenCode? Oh, don't get me started. I'm a little bit falling in love with OpenCode, and I should probably write or do a video or do more about that. I'm really excited about it. So, and I think it's really cool that we have an open source product that is so polished and so nice to use. Often the case with open source, and this has been a frustration to anyone who loves open source, is you have the products and they kind of work, but they're not as nice, they don't look as good, they're not as easy to use as the sort of proprietary products. Not so with OpenCode. It's probably the best looking coding agent, both the terminal version and now also the desktop version, which is really, really nice. Really, it's still kind of beta and doesn't have all the features, and they just release it, but it looks gorgeous and it's really fun to use. So to me, that's a big benefit. And I think it's also nice that they're unaffiliated. So obviously, Visual Studio Code and GitHub Copilot, they're also open source and they're very committed to open source, which I appreciate. But it's still Microsoft, and with their Invest as a very large company. OpenCode is kind of unaffiliated. They work with any model, any subscription, and I think it's really healthy to have such a plan. So super impressed by their work. The fact that they are building a product that is a real pleasure to use. It's not just enough of the functionality to make it possible to work with an open source product, but really competitive in terms of how nice and fun it is to use. Completely open, versatile, connect to everything. So I think it's great. I really recommend to anyone to give it a try. And they give you free models like GLM 4.7 or Minimax. So you can try it without even having a subscription, which is also nice. You can answer the question. There's for sure more benefits. The client server architecture that's really great and all kind of things. But I don't want to bore you. I'm a little bit too excited about this to maybe do a summary, but I'll definitely think we should talk more about OpenCode, and I see it growing and becoming much more important. All right, next question. Regarding agent skills, will this change how recommendation systems work? And are they necessary anymore because my own preferences can be learned dynamically? I'm not sure I can give you an idea. If whoever asks this wants to pay a bit more, that would be cool, because I'm not sure I completely understand what it means and how actually agent skills relate to recommendation systems here.
Hi, Eleanor. It was my question.
Cool.
Because I'm knowing classical recommendation systems and their concepts, and I thought if I'm using, for example, a learning platform, which can already realize what my favorites are, what I've done in the past, and what I would like to do in the future. So what's my training goal? That it will learn everything if the app, for example, has been implemented with Anthropic skills. And I don't need to have a real classical recommendation system anymore in the background.
I think there's place for, so these recommendation systems are from the world of quote unquote big data. Whether they have the real strengths is the ability to learn progressively from encountering a lot of data. This is not something that agent skills necessarily do very well, because agent skills in the end are a text file. And text files, we will kind of compress a lot of information, right? If you want to represent information about the user and their preferences in a markdown file, you will not have the resolution you have when you have, say, tabular data from a lot of interaction with the user. And so I don't think they'll ever replace something like a proper recommendation system.
Okay.
This is my hunch. Maybe at some point we'll get some good LLMs, we'll get so amazing at processing huge amounts of data that we can stuff everything into an agent skill. I don't think we're there yet.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on. What is the next one? My thoughts about AMP and how it compares to OpenCode. He reserved my thoughts because I don't know AMP very well. A lot of my friends really like AMP, people whose tastes and opinion I really trust. So I guess it must be good. I used it once or twice and it was good. It's not open source, obviously. So in this respect, it's different than OpenCode. I know that they now have an ad-supported version you can use for free, so maybe that's cool. I don't have a lot to say about AMP because I haven't used it more than once or twice. I believe it's very good based on what I hear. In general, by the way, I think all these tools are really good and they're not that different from each other. There's a lot of talk, especially on social media and paid publications and whatnot, where the different vendors of the tools, for obvious reasons, really are trying to sell themselves as being uniquely better than the others. And that's generally not the case. All of these agents are good. Most of the work is done by the LLM, not by the agent. The agents connect the LLM to a file system. So if AMP is nice to use, or it has a good deal on it, or you use the ad-supported version, I'm sure that's very good as an option.
Yeah, they definitely have a free tier, but it's limited to, I think, $10 a day or something like that in credits. Unless I'm using.
Yeah, I mean, LLMs cost a lot of money. In the end, like, it's all the LLM, right? All these agents, what they do is they connect the LLM to the file system, allowing it to run commands and read files and write files. And they have some user interface. And so as long as the user interface is something you like working with, I think all these agents are roughly equivalent. They have these benchmarks, like term bench or stuff like this, where they compare the results. And people are so excited about the differences. Then when you look at what are the actual differences, they're minuscule. It almost doesn't matter.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people like him, so that's the best thing I can say. All right, what's next? How do you use Claude outside of business application? Are there any interesting use cases for creativity, learning, and personal projects? Wow, yes, for sure. And I'm sure maybe we should actually kind of turn it more into a round table and hear from everyone, because I think this is always fascinating to hear what people are doing. And for me, some things that I'm doing with Claude. So Claude is my coach, has a coach project and includes all kinds of information about me that's going on for a couple of years by now. It's migrated. It used to be in ChatGPT, and then I moved to Claude, and I had to like export those that I re-import it. All kind of frameworks and things that are useful for me. And I have, for example, several skills for it that I built. One of them is my journaling skill. So every evening at the end of the day, I tell Claude, okay, time to journal. And it asks me questions. That's when it asks me questions. The stuff gets out of me a bit easier than if I had to proactively say. So it has like a pool of questions it can ask me, and it asks me 7 random questions. Not some of it is a bit personal, but kind of what the things that I did today, how I felt, and it really helps me because first of all, just by interrogating me, it gets stuff out of me that I probably wouldn't have bothered to write. I'm not a Dear Diary kind of person. And it gives me some insights, not in the sense that it's not a psychologist or anything like this, but it knows me so well by now. So I might say, oh, today this happened when I got a little bit annoyed. And it will tell me, hey, Eleanor, remember, like 2 weeks ago, very similar thing happened, and you got annoyed too. Maybe there's something here you need to unpack. So that's a very cool thing to do. I use it a lot to learn. So basically nowadays, unless I'm reading for fun, which I do sometimes, when I'm reading for learning, usually it starts by, I put the stuff I'm reading into Claude, and I get a short summary, then a longer summary, and then an even longer summary, and then I have to drill down into one aspect or another aspect, or maybe ask you to create an artifact with some visualization for me. And a lot of how I learn is now by interacting with Claude rather than just going and reading a book beginning to end. And I find this works really well for me. So yeah, tons of stuff like this. And I'd love to hear from others if you have some cool things you're doing except for work. If you don't, we can jump in later also, or put something on the side, and maybe we can do like the section only on this, like all the cool personal things you can do with Claude. It's always a bit hard to demo this, right? Because you don't want to, I wouldn't want to show you my interactions with my coach project because it's personal, but we can figure something out. So Roger is asking if follow from the last question, I guess the one on the local models, is there a way to mask sensitive data that would be some Claude. I suppose you couldn't try to use a small local model to identify data and mask it. I'm not sure why the concern. So this comes up quite a lot. It also been all kinds of scenarios when I advise people, teams, or when I work. And I'm not sure if it's always proportional to the real risk if you consider that your connection to Claude or any provider like this is encrypted end to end, that they encrypt things at rest and in transport, which means that it's only not encrypted when it goes on the GPU for doing inference. And they all have, like, you can go and look into the documentation, they all have hard commitments to all the standards on privacy. And there's a lot to lose if they ever mess this up, right? Because their reputation is built on this. So I tend to not be concerned unless there is a legal requirement, which in some cases there is, especially here in Europe. But otherwise, I would recommend you not to be too concerned, because it seems to me I feel more confident sending my data to Anthropic or OpenAI or Microsoft or whatever than I do to some, local government system which knows where it is being maintained. If you do want to redact or mask, there are things you could do that maybe run locally, but there are always limitations. If you're relying on AI, it's non-deterministic. It will never be perfect. So there is this option. You can look, there isn't some open source projects to do this, but then again, you need to run something locally. How big can it be? Depends on the hardware you have. So there are options. I would really kind of think, why is it necessary? What am I really solving for?
Just to double click on this, I think some people do share the concern about, is my coding data, my code going to be used for training these models? That's where I think the privacy, concerns come about. And I know I've had these thoughts before with, and these privacy policies can be really, really wordy, but yeah, just some context.
Yeah, but that's a contractual question, right? Not a technical question. So you need to check your contract with your provider. In the case of Claude or OpenAI or any of these, no, they say very clearly that they're not using your data to train, and they have a lot to lose if they ever mess this. So I'm actually inclined to trust them. And there are some cases, for example, OpenAI, you can sign an agreement that you let them use the data, and then you get quite a lot of usage for free. I actually have this, and I use it when I work on open source projects, because why not? It's anyway open source, and they have access to it on GitHub. But yeah, it's a contractual question. You definitely should check with your provider what is the agreement. I think the problem is when people make assumptions. And by the way, it's not just on the individual level. I've seen very large companies that are making this as an assumptions instead of checking the contract, which is the right thing to do. And consulting the legal department if it's really important.
Makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Moving on. MDFlow and written for Port Windows. Oh, really? But it wasn't fortunate. And what's to use to combine chat and scripts in a Copilot CLI? Or what are the advantages of MDFlow over Copilot CLI? So first of all, the question I have is, and I haven't used Windows in a bit, but Windows has this WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux. I wonder if MDFlow might work on that. maybe worth checking. If not, so MDFlow, all it does is templating, right? It takes these markdown files and you can run some commands embedded within the markdown, and it orchestrates running it within an agent like Copilot CLI or Codex or whatever. So it doesn't give you a lot. It's a bit of a just to do something fun, but it's very easy to write a script that passes the prompt to, for example, Copilot CLI. If you already have a Copilot subscription that's convenient, or OpenCode, which also works with your Copilot subscription, or with Claude or Codex or any of these. So, I think MDFlow is like a cute hack. It's not like something essential for working with AI locally on your machine. In fact, something I do, I use this format called Just. It's like a program that you can just file. It's a bit like a make file where you have like these recipes, and it has recipes for calling Copilot CLI so that they can just invoke on my line on my terminal. This works quite nicely for me. So maybe I can try this video later because I think I have it some on GitHub. But yeah, MDFlow, I think it's a really nice kind of orchestration trick, but it's not essential. Again, all the power is coming from the actual agent. And we're moving on. The features in Claude Cloud and Opus 4.5 stand out and feel different in a good way. Do you think orgs will now need fewer devs or will produce 10x with the same? Oof, that's the $1 million question, $1 trillion question. Who knows? I don't know if anyone can really make a prediction, and I wouldn't dare. To me, it seems, at least from what I'm seeing around me, that the people who really just wrote code, I don't know, sometimes it's called junior programmers, but I don't think it's about sort of tenure. I think it's about how much responsibility people take on themselves. So the people who used to not take a lot of responsibility on themselves and just get very clear instructions for writing code, they don't have a lot more to contribute because you can now just give the instructions to Claude or any other agent and get really good results. And the people who take on a lot of responsibility and think how to translate requirements from the business side of things to specification that can be used to build a product or the solution, and are willing to chase bugs and changes and improvements, I think they're not going to be replaced yet, but who knows, things are moving really fast. I'm assuming that everything people do in front of a computer with a keyboard will be replaced by AI sooner or later. I just don't know when. That's my understanding on how things are progressing. The question of why did I switch from ChatGPT to Claude for coaching? Do you find Claude to be a better coach? So I switched in general to Claude because I never really bothered with Claude until version 4.5 was released and until I heard about agent skills. When I heard about agent skills and I saw the performance of the 4.5 series, I was really impressed for two reasons. One of them, I think these models are really good. So previously, I didn't think the models from Anthropic were as good as the ones from OpenAI. But definitely by version 4 or version 4.5, they caught up with models that are very agentic, very nice to interact with, very very smart. And I thought they're really different. The other thing is I realized the approach they're taking, or instead of building an app with many different features, do this, generate images, click apps, and go to the health section, whatever, they're just building a very strong agent and letting you customize it with skills. And when I realized that, I thought, okay, that's exactly the right approach. And I actually like how it works, not just in Claude Code, but also in the Claude web app, because it's basically the same, right? It's just an agent that you can customize with skills, and it has an access to a virtual machine to run things. So this is why I switched. And I still have access to all three, to Gemini and GPT and Claude. But yeah, I just find it really hard to use multiple tools all the time. So I find that I don't use ChatGPT much anymore, just because I got used to using Claude. I use it for almost everything. I sometimes use Gemini for the multimodal stuff, the images and videos and all of that, because it's really good at that. But I'm sure you can do the same with ChatGPT, and the latest model, the 5.2, is really good. So I wouldn't know it's still much of a difference. They don't support skills yet, not in that type they do in Codex. But other than that, I don't see the differences that are that big actually. And now it's the like kind of rough look at. I really changed my approach. Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. This is a bit of a media event more than anything else. I mean, yeah, we all know that you can run an agent in a loop. Someone gave it a name. It should name it then. Rouse. I don't know actually. I mean, maybe I should explain in case not everyone knows. So you can run agents in a loop by telling them when you are done, start again. Or start again until some condition is met. And that's an effective way to get an agent to work for a long time, which the better the models are, the more likely you are to get good results from that by letting the model iterate again and again and again and again and check itself. So this is nothing new. This is not surprising. At some point, I don't know, in the last 2-3 weeks, someone gave this technique the name Ralph, I think Ralph Wiggum, which is after a Simpsons character who does the same thing over and over again or something like this. And this blew up on social media and things like this. And I think it was captured people's imagination, there's a cute name and it sounds exciting. Yeah, I mean, there is some value maybe in running an agent continuously unattended. I don't think we are yet in the phase where this is the main way to do things, because just as sometimes it can work very well, other times it will go off track. And meanwhile, you are spending a lot of your budget on tokens, right? If the model is running for hours on end. It's really easy to implement. One way people have done this is with a hook in Claude that whenever the model returns, you just tell it to start again. You can also write a small loop in Python or JavaScript or whatever it is you're using for scripting and run the model again and again. It's interesting to experiment with. It's interesting to understand the concept that the model working iteratively can, in some conditions, in some cases, improve on the results. In fact, definitely not something I'm using day to day. I don't see the point really. But if other people have some really cool experiences, then these two, I'll hear about it.
I can jump in a little bit. I did try this week, the Ralph Wiggum loop, and it was pretty good. it's not necessarily only for tasks that fail with the LLM. Like you said, Eleanor, like a lot of tasks, LLMs can one-shot them now. But if you have like a huge PRD or you have a large number of tasks, then you can feed it through something like Taskmaster. And then the output of that can then be fed into something like Ralph, which is really good for, you just set it and forget it. And then when you wake up, it works. I haven't done like a ton of that, but I did a small test with like 5 tasks and it worked quite well.
Yeah, sure. There's no question that it works, especially if you have multiple tasks. So how different is it from just scheduling these multiple tasks and remote agents? I don't know. But anyway, I think we're all learning in real time, so I'm excited to see people playing with these things. I don't think, and I'm surprised that it became so important to people. To me, it's more like one of many things you can do with an agent. But yeah, it's cool to see that a lot of people are playing with agents and finding different things. Another thing that's catching fire now is Claude from Peter Steinberger. It's also very cool, and people are like connecting the agents to everything and to their messenger and letting it run in the background and do all kinds of things. So there's a lot of cool stuff people are doing, playing with agents now. And I'm using hooks or the skills replaced and it is true for sub-agents. So hooks, skills, and sub-agents are completely different things. I don't see how they would ever replace each other. I don't use hooks a lot. I've used them here and there in projects where I knew that there's something specific I need done, like running the tests or running a formatter or things like this. And in many cases now, you can instruct the agent what to do and it will do it reliably. So I think hooks were much more important in the past where the agents weren't so reliable. And there were some things you wanted to programmatically ensure always work. And now it's a bit easier to just include in your agents.md or Claude.md instructions to always then do this or always before you start do that. And it will be quite obedient. But still, in some cases, a hook is a good solution. And agents are a way to arm out work to something that's happening in the background potentially, and it can happen in its own thread, in its own conversation chat, which means also with its own context window. So this remains valuable. And I think where skills relates to sub-agents is in the past we used to sometimes write a definition of a sub-agent with a prompt and something like this. And today, more often what I do is I have a skill and I tell Claude or whatever agent I'm using, run this skill, but do it in a sub-agent. So I get the best of both worlds. So skills encapsulate knowledge, workflows, things like this. Basically, the text files that can be loaded progressively. Sub-agents are a way to run a different agent with its own context window, with its own conversation thread. And it can use a skill or it can use these agent definitions, which were more popular until skills became the main mechanism. And hooks are just a way to do something programmatically when the agent reaches a certain point in its life cycle. I don't know. I don't use them that much, but they have their uses. If you have something very structured you want to do, I think that is always true in your project. Does this make sense, more or less? I guess so. And there are so many ways of doing things because we have now this toolbox of different tools you can combine in different ways. So I think it varies a lot how people work. Okay, question about personal use. I would like its feature to get a visual mind map sort of things I'm learning and asking which how do you suggest? Oh, the best for this is Notebook LM. Notebook LM is really good in this kind of stuff. If you haven't used it, I think you can use it for free on Google. Worries about maybe you need the Gemini subscription, but even the cheap one for $20. And it's so what it is. It can produce mind maps and visualizations and slideshows and podcasts. It's really great for this. And the time with it is it's a lot of fun to use it for learning. Another thing you can do is use artifacts and quotes. And Claude just has this ability when it generates some HTML to present it to you. And so you can tell it, hey, I want a mind map of this and make it in the colors orange and purple and do it in this style, and you can iterate over it and, probably get it. And again, something we can probably do a session about because not saying it, Notebook LM is 100% free. So definitely go and have a play with it. It's really cool. Yes, Christina also mentions it is cool. So I think we have a consensus here. If you haven't tried Notebook LM yet, as well, like it's really nice. And then we have a last question. Are you using spec-driven development? I find it funny, but many peers use a spec PID before building. I usually chat with the model to define a plan. Yeah, I think so. It's really interesting. And I think this spec-driven development is a good framework for thinking about working with a coding agent. And I think that what happens definitely was my own experience, definitely of my students in the coding course, because we teach about that and then people start gaining their own experience. Is maybe you do it with this very rigid framework initially with like spec sheet or something like this, and it helps you make the first steps. But then you realize, yes, it is very heavy. And you don't necessarily need all this heaviness. What you need is good study of being very specific, of telling the model what you need done in steps, what are the constraints, what are the edge cases, how will you know that it's good, how are you measuring it. And with time, you get better and better at doing it. It becomes easier to just collaborate with the agent, prompt it, create a plan, and then slide off. What I find that I do in practice most, at least for larger things or some things, especially with the latest models, you can just prompt quickly and get it done. But for larger things, usually what happens is I will iterate with the agent on a plan, and I would ask it to write this plan to a markdown file. And I'll have the markdown file open, I will read through it, and maybe we'll have a few iterations. I'll say, no, we should actually do this, and actually let's not forget about this constraint, and let's, here's like a feature I didn't remember to add before, until I get a plan that I like, and then I'll just tell it, okay, let's see how I implement the plan in the markdown file. And this is kind of my own lightweight version of spec-driven development. I don't use Spec-Kit or any of these systems that I also feel that they're very heavy. But I think they help people make the first steps learning about spec-driven development. And then I was saying, what do I think about Antigravity, I guess, compared to Visual Studio Code? Look, I don't have a lot of experience with Antigravity. I tried it a little bit. It looks all right. We did a lot for free from Google, which is always nice. I'm a bit suspicious always when Google releases this kind of stuff because they had a history of releasing many different products, and then if the product doesn't stick, they discontinue or just stop improving it. It's either they're not that's committed to open standards. So for example, when I look at Visual Studio Code, they are really sticklers for like any new standard. The MCP standard, I think they have the most complete implementation, and the agent skills, they already have a complete implementation, and they connect to all the different providers and so on. And it's open source, of course. I really appreciate it. I think that's valuable. I don't see Google doing the same with Antigravity. But it's probably good enough that when I tried it, it was worked fine. And I think probably the best feature is everything you get for free from Google, because it's nice to use these strong models they have there and not pay for them. So that's one good reason to use Antigravity. And I'll say the same thing again, and I'll guess I'll need to say it over and over again. The differences are really not that big between these tools. So find one that you like, where the user interface works well for you, where the arrangement, the subscription, or whatever you get for free works for you, and use that. It's really not that different from the other tools. All right, so I think we got to the end of these questions. This was really great. Lots of excellent questions. So thank you, everyone. And I don't know if I missed anything in the chat or something like this, that because it's hard to see everything at once. But if anyone has anything else you want to discuss or ask, please feel free to jump in. And if not, we can close it at that. Thank you, everyone. This was a really great session. I really enjoyed it. Some brilliant questions, and I love the demo of PII. And also with some links about the stuff from XPOZ and some of the things we discussed. We will have another session in 2 weeks on Sunday, so I hope to see some of you there. And we had some really good ideas for things they could try, including, for example, we'll look through all the sort of complete end-to-end use of an agentic coding setup, or using something like the Claude web app for experimenting and doing some test notes and stuff. So we can do some of those things together next session. Thanks, everyone, and have a great weekend.